Welcome to the Filmfest studio. My name is Ilona. I'm the artistic director of Filmfest Bremen, and it's my honor to have a guest with me right now from the United States, from the film Letters2Maybe. And please welcome with me Yehuda Sharim, who is nominated with his film in the innovation category this year. Hi, Yehuda.
Hi, Ilona. Hi, everybody.
Nice to meet you. Tell us exactly from where are you joining us today in the studio?
Joining from Merced, California. Merced is a small town middle of Central Valley, California.
And
so I'm there right now.
Yeah, this is also where like a large part of your movie takes place, right?
Yes, indeed, indeed, indeed. Yeah, I just want to say thank you first for the film festival, for all of you who are watching us right now, and all the people who worked so hard with the festival in making that happen and inviting us. So thank you.
It's an honor to have you, and I think the film has already, the ones that selected it and also myself, we were very touched by the stories you tell, and it's a very unique way of telling them. This is also why it's nominated in this category. I mean, over the last couple of years, we have seen a lot of feature films and documentary films focusing on the topic of experiences of immigrants, but it is hardly ever like done in such an artistic way, and also with a combination of stories you have, you create a bigger picture, I think, and you give your characters, your protagonists, a lot of space to show what is truly important to them and places that are important to them. So first of all, I would like to ask you, obviously, how you got so close to the people you portray in the film, and where did you find them?
I think it's a project that began actually 5 years ago. In my first film, we began making films, and making films was not separated from being involved in each other's lives. So the camera is never really the main center of everything, but it's our friendships. It's what we bring to each other's lives, what we share. And then I remember I received a phone call from Hussein, who appeared in my first film. Hussein arrived from Baghdad to Houston. Back then I was living in Houston. And he called me and he told me, Yehuda, I almost died. And then we met, and I understood that it's much more complicated than a car accident. He talked about suffering from depression. We talked about arriving to the US, finding safety but not locating home. We talked about loss. We talked about being locked in a closet for hours a day, literally being locked, locking yourself, not wanting to leave, being afraid of the world. And then when we met, Nancy came in, who arrived to the US 30 years ago with her parents, seeking refuge but without papers. And the conversation was how we are all actually dealing with depression one way or another, or dealing, and the depression is the result of this ongoing craving for home, for community. Because home cannot exist without community, without warmth, without love. It's not necessarily money, and definitely not, all those goods that make us feel at home, that give our lives meaning. So then that is where the film began. And I began improvise with Hussein a lot. And there are a lot of those scenes that he's like, refugees stand, refugees sit. And it's all those, movement of the soul. And then when I moved to Merced, I began to understand that the story is actually bigger than what happens to one community. It's actually multiple communities. And those communities are in conversation with one another in such a deep way, and actually film is the genre or the platform that could facilitate such a conversation, where we can meet each other on our own terms without asking for papers, and we represent this ourselves the way we would like to represent ourselves. And I think that is why the method, the artistry did not come from me forcing it, sit over here, hold the microphone, answer questions. That is such a very dogmatic way of understanding dialogue. It's actually not dialogue. It's Q&A. Q&A is all about power. It's about people who have questions and people who are supposed to have answers. Here, I try to blur all those boundaries and create for us a space where we can be the people we would like to be, which means that we are always more than those categories: refugees, immigrants, undocumented, aliens, citizens, and so on and so forth. Those are categories. They are arbitrary, they're changing all the time. We are more than categories. And those are the spaces we try to visit or enter or occupy in that work.
I mean, it's right in the opening scene, which is beautifully shot. But the first words, I think, of the film are the words like "Escúchame," listen to me. And I think this is also like you turn it around, right? You let people tell the stories the way they want to, and it's for us, for the viewers, it's our turn to be quiet and to just listen and to take it in. Right, so I kind of really like this take on switching around that power structure a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. I think it's actually needed.
Absolutely.
It's needed, and also move away from entertainment, because we used to see immigrants, communities of color, as some kind of, okay, we see a film about immigrants or refugees, and we are actually after that going to a bar, drinking wine or whatnot, or having popcorn. I wanted to put us on the spot. Yeah. We all have responsibilities, and we should take those responsibilities seriously. Particularly now, I mean, we are living in a world that is falling apart in so many ways. And we would like to make sure that we are there for one another as much as we are there for ourselves.
I think you can feel a lot of this community spirit in the film, and it's very present, but it's also very present that there is a huge disillusionment with the United States that you feel from most of the people in the film, I think, like of not feeling that included or welcome, even if they have been there for many years, some of them. So it's really struck me, there was this list of points at one point where it went like, first, the American dream is a lie, and the second, your mental health will get messed up by coming here or leaving your home country. And like right now, especially also in Europe with the war going on here, the whole issue of refugees and like people being forced to migrate to some other place for reasons of their own personal safety or political reasons. It's super urgent right now for us to address these issues as well. So maybe to look at the other side, what happens to people who actually move to the supposedly safer space or land of more opportunities. So this perspective of actually the disillusionment sometimes that sets in being in this different place, this I found very striking in your film. And yeah, for me it was, I don't know where this experience, I mean, it's a very personal thing, obviously, what people experience in their new countries or the countries they enter. But I was wondering if it's a general thing that you feel is related to the situation in the US, or if it's a global phenomena, if you sort of lose your country or your roots in a way, or you have to part. Is that something that cannot be healed when you're somewhere else?
Wow, what a beautiful and important question, Ilana. I think because when we talk about our experience right now of so many of us, we are forced to lose. And how are we as a community dealing with loss? With the fact that some members in our community are in deep entertain. That is the essence of it. And I think there's something in this work that I try to create a space for listening. Disillusionment is a result for me from our inability to see and to listen to one another, which then asked me to think about film not as a way to entertain, where we are only attracted to different lights and colors and sound, but actually slow it down, go into a time, slow it down, where we are able to enter someone's home and listen. And by listen, I don't mean that I listen only to what you tell me, but I also listen to your body and to what you don't tell me. What is that you carry with you? What is it in your prayers? What is it in your eyes? What is it in what you are afraid to say? And I think when we are able, and I'm sure we are capable of doing that, creating a space of deep compassion and listening, attuning ourselves, because that means that we need to also listen to ourselves. And that is not always easy, to face that mirror, to listen to our own frustrations and bitterness and fights that we have among ourselves, with ourselves, and disappointments and whatnot. And at the same time, aspirations and beauty, our dreams. The moment we're able to do that, then we are creating a space that is able and open to change, open to movement, open to growth. How can we change? How can we grow without listening? And reach our own, potential. So for me, that is part of that disillusionment. It's another way of saying, can you please listen? And it's interesting. We featured the film was premiered in Houston, and Abbas, Samira, and Hannah came to me after the film screening. And Abbas, who I've been working with the Dayan family for like 3 films now, he came up to me and he says, Yehuda, I love this film. And I asked him why, and he says, no one listens to us, so now you put music. Maybe people listen to the music, and through the music they will listen to us. And which is another way to talk about disillusionment. But again, the need for us to create a space for listen within our own societies, within our own hearts. Yeah, so that's how I would like to talk about that level of disillusionment.
And one thing I also felt very strongly, it's also reflected in the title of the film, is the Letters to Maybe. So you have your protagonists write and read letters to absent loved ones or family members or friends they left behind. And these are obviously very personal, emotional, and sometimes they also reflect the reasons why you left, perhaps, because family doesn't always mean a good thing to people. And then you also have this huge hole in the lives of people who miss a childhood friends or miss family members that they cannot see, or miss a funeral of a parent. All of these things that are very traumatic for people to sort of not have this connection. The letter part, when did you as a director, did you bring this up, or was it something that emerged like naturally during shooting the film? Because I think this addresses also this need to communicate or stay in touch with your roots.
With your roots, and also with our demons. Yes. With the people that we are always with us and they are not physically around us. It actually came very spontaneously. Like, I noticed that I think Hussein, I was filming him one time, and he was constantly talking to his mother. And then I said, hey, why don't you talk to your mother without the phone? Because we are all the time holding those plastics to ourselves and pretend that we are with someone. And then we said, okay, drop the plastic. What is there? And then it became, we're in the middle of a restaurant, and then I just like And we were working with a group of immigrants, refugees, and then I asked people, can you come to the camera and just read a letter to someone that you're constantly thinking about, but he, she, they are not there with you. I didn't know what they were saying at the first, like, Ma Brat from Eritrea, I didn't know she speaks to her son that she left alone in a refugee camp in Kenya and still didn't see him for like more than 20 years. I didn't know that Obeid, a new arrival from Afghanistan, will speak to his loved one, that where the relationship ended, but obviously it's not over. I didn't expect that, and I don't plan scenes like that. I actually again try to see what all my friends bring and work with that, and then just push it or direct it, I guess. But it's very spontaneous, and it's you know, it's not new. It's not a new technique. And the maybe is the main issue for me, because who knows if those letters are being sent, and maybe and whether those letters will ever be read by either us, those who watch, and those who are left behind, you know, who are elsewhere, you know. So that's but that maybe is really critical for the film, because it's just again emphasizing that level of precarity, that level of instability. You talked about disillusionment. That's part of it.
But I think the writing the letter, even if you don't send it or if you don't read it, or if the person it's addressed to will never receive it, it's still something settles inside yourself by writing it down or by giving a voice to these feelings. So absolutely. I felt there was a catharsis in the letter writing or reading part of the film. Absolutely.
Yes, 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 yes.
So one thing I also found very striking is how resilient all of the people in the movie are, and how open they are in terms of also their own insecurities or the physical and the mental pain they were in. Like there's this conversation about suicide at one point in the film, but even though it's a very dark topic, obviously, and about Googling the fastest way to end your life, or the least painful ones. And then it turns into this kind of common ground that you realize other people actually Google the same things as you, and it makes you feel less alone. And despite the darkness of the topic, there's a very human connection right there. Also, this kind of humor that sometimes makes life bearable.
Absolutely. And again, it speaks to that level of a community. Yeah. When you have a community is not only drinking tea together, but it's also sharing. And then the most painful are actually what brings us together, and then we can laugh at it. And I will say about being resilient, I mean, being resilient is one aspect of it. Being also hurt is another one. And sometimes not being able to carry it. There are many moments that things fall apart. And resiliency is maybe sometimes the only option. What can you do? You survive. But it also tells you a lot about structures that are dysfunctional. There's not enough support for the communities. Some of them decided to go back home since, meaning to what they escaped in a state of emergency. Some of them seek refuge now elsewhere. So that's a little more nuance about that level of resiliency.
So if you could write a letter to the cinema audiences, what would be your main point?
My main point. Wow, dear viewer, I'll begin it. No, dear friend, welcome. Take a seat. Have something to drink. You are here among friends. Please listen and watch, not necessarily what is in front of the screen, not necessarily what appears in front on the screen, but also listen and watch what is not necessarily articulated, what is inherently embodied and carried and really courageously shared here with you. I will see you soon. Yehuda.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for being in competition this year with Letters2Maybe in the innovation category. And I hope we will meet in person one day when you're back in Germany for a visit.
We will. We will. Eleona, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.